Have you ever looked at a really audacious dream and just thought, that's impossible? Like for someone like me.
Oh, yeah. Or even just, what would people think? It's a big one.
Exactly. What does it actually take to chase that kind of dream? Especially when, well, it seems completely unreasonable to everyone around you.
Mm-hmm. Is it just, blind faith? Or is there maybe a method to what looks like madness from the outside?
That's such a deep question, isn't it? And it really taps into something universal. We get held back a lot.
Yeah, sometimes it's real obstacles, but often it's just the weight of what people expect. Or that little voice inside, whispering doubts
Totally. It makes the dream feel dead on arrival sometimes.
before you even take step one.
And that is exactly why today we're doing a deep dive into Kevin Smith's journey. It's fascinating.
The filmmaker, right, Clerks.
Yeah, the guy who went from working in a convenience store in Leonardo, New Jersey, to becoming, well, Kevin Smith, a household name.
And he has this whole philosophy, doesn't he?
He does. He calls it reasonable unreasonability. And honestly, hearing about it might just shift how you think about your own big goals, even the really wild ones.
So we've basically gone through a ton of his stuff, interviews, talks, his own writing, and tried to boil it down.
Right, to get to the core of it. And it's not just some Hollywood success story. It feels more like a blueprint for believing in yourself audaciously.
Think of this as like your shortcut to understanding his pretty unconventional path. It's not just about success, but finding out who you are along the way.
Yeah, our mission today is really to pull out those key insights from his story. We want to show you how that kind of self-belief, even when it looks totally crazy to others,
Like folly, yeah.
can actually lead to amazing things, finding your real calling. So get ready. There are some genuinely surprising bits and some really inspiring lessons here.
Okay, let's start there then. This core idea, reasonable unreasonability. Kevin Smith actually coined that term.
He did. And it wasn't just a catchy phrase. It really became, like, his guiding principle. How does he even define that? It sounds contradictory.
Well, he makes a really important distinction. It's key. He separates it from what he calls unreasonable unreasonability.
Okay, what's the difference there?
He gives this great analogy. He says, not like, hey, man, I'm going to jump off a building and fly without the aid of a jetpack.
Right. That's just not going to happen.
Exactly. That's pure fantasy, he says. Totally disconnected from reality. There's no path there.
That's just setting yourself up for disaster, yeah. Not a dream.
But his reasonable amount is different. It's simpler. It's that little thought. Powerful, though. Why not me?
Okay. So it's not about ignoring reality, but seeing a little crack of possibility within it.
Precisely. It's that flicker, that belief that maybe, just maybe, you could be the one, even if the odds look terrible from the outside.
And where did this start for him? What was the spark?
What's really relatable is how he talks about the shitty job. I mean, who hasn't had one of those, right?
Oh, absolutely. That job you dread going to.
Yeah, the one he says you hate so much
Yeah.
that you do anything else at the job to forget about the fact that you're there to work. Just killing time.
That feeling of being stuck, watching the clock, dreaming of being anywhere else. I think a lot of us know that feeling.
For sure. And for Smith, that feeling wasn't just, a drag. It was a powerful motivator, like a desperate motivator.
He didn't just want out. He wanted up.
Right. He said pretty bluntly, I'd rather die trying to do something I love doing and hope it works out than just kind of commit to that right away, referring to the bad job.
Wow. That's intense. But it really shows how hating your current situation can fuel massive change, that anti-motivation.
It could be a huge catalyst, absolutely.
Yeah.
It forces you to look at options you might normally dismiss as crazy.
So what was the specific catalyst for him? What pushed him towards filmmaking?
It actually came from a surprising place, a movie called Slacker, Richard Linklater's film.
Ah, okay. I know Slacker. How did that inspire him?
He saw it and had this major aha moment. But here's the funny part. His perception was a bit off.
How so?
He saw Linklater making this cool, successful movie in what he perceived as Nowheresville, Texas. Austin, basically.
He thought Austin was Nowheresville.
Okay.
Yeah.
He didn't realize it was the state capital, this vibrant city. To him, it was just some regular town, definitely not L.A. or New York.
And that misconception was actually helpful.
It was everything for him. Because his thought process was, okay, if that guy can make a hit indie film in Nowheresville, Texas.
Why can't I do it in Nowheresville, New Jersey?
Exactly. It suddenly made the whole massive dream feel possible, relatable,
Yeah.
connected his huge ambition to his ordinary everyday reality.
It sort of demystified filmmaking for him.
Totally. And where was his ordinary reality?
The convenience store where he worked.
Right. He looked around and suddenly saw it differently. Not as his dead-end job, but as his movie set, his resource.
He hadn't seen a movie set in a convenience store like that, so he figured maybe that's my angle.
Talk about resourcefulness. Using what you've got right where you are. It's
Yeah.
a powerful lesson. You don't always need fancy stuff.
Just a shift in perspective sometimes. Seeing opportunity where others see, well, quick stop.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it shows how inspiration can come from seeing someone just a little bit ahead of you, doing something cool with normal tools. Makes it feel achievable.
Okay, so he's got the idea. He's got the why not me fire, fueled by the lousy job and slacker. But making a movie that costs money, even in Nowheresville, New Jersey.
And this is where the Clerks story gets really audacious. The financial gamble.
How did he manage it?
Credit cards. All of it. He borrowed $27,575 entirely on credit cards.
Wow, 27 grand. Back then, especially. That's a lot.
Astronomical for a guy working at a convenience store. I mean, it's a big chunk of change even now for a personal project. This was a massive life-changing risk. The pressure must have been intense.
I can't even imagine. What was his plan if the movie just tanked?
Super practical, actually. He figured he'd just get multiple jobs. A second job, maybe even a third if he had to. Just grind it out and pay off the debt.
So he wasn't just betting on the dream, he was ready to face the consequences if it failed. That's a different kind of bravery.
It really is. But, okay, the first big step wasn't Sundance, like a lot of people might think.
No. Where did he screen it first?
It was at this industry thing called the IFFM, Independent Feature Film Marketplace, at the Angelica Film Center in New York.
Okay, what's the IFFM?
Think of it like a market for indie films. Trying to get distribution, find buyers, more business, less festival glamour, make or break time.
Gotcha. So how did that screening go? Big break.
He calls it a complete disaster.
Oh, no. Wow.
Only 10 people showed up. And it was basically him, the cast, and the crew, the people who made the movie.
Ouch. No distributors, no audience.
Nope. Just their little circle. Imagine putting all that debt, all that work, all that hope on the line for that. He said it was like a public humiliation, but quiet.
God, yeah. How did he react in that moment?
He said he had a total breakdown right there in the theater, like 10 or 15 minutes into the movie.
Really?
Yeah. Thoughts racing. My God, why did I do this? He started picking the film apart. How grainy it looked. Like it was shot through a glass of milk, he said. Even the swearing, which is such a trademark now.
He was seeing all the flaws, seeing it through the eyes of doubters.
Exact. Questioning everything he'd poured his heart and soul and credit limit into. Sounds like a really low point.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But then something shifted for him, right? About 15 minutes in, he calls it cognitive reframing.
Yes. And this is maybe the most crucial part of the story, this psychological pivot.
What happened? How did he reframe that situation?
Instead of dwelling on the empty seats, the film's look, the debt, he had this incredible realization. He looked at the screen, and the thought that cut through all the panic was something like,
What?
you know what? 2.5 years ago, you were sitting in this exact same movie theater watching Slacker.
Yeah.
You had zero vision of being a filmmaker then. And now, here you are watching your own movie in this theater.
Wow.
And yeah, he thought, it didn't fill up. But you did it.
You did it! That's powerful, shifting from external results to internal achievement.
Exactly. But it went even deeper than that for him. The really profound feeling, he realized, wasn't watching the movie. It was making it.
On set.
Yeah. He said that while directing, he felt like he knew exactly who he was supposed to be for the first time.
Like finding his purpose.
Totally. He put it like your whole life prior to that has been a mystery, and then, bam, just like that, everything became crystal clear.
It wasn't about the outcome anymore. It was about the process. The feeling of becoming himself.
That feeling of purpose, of alignment, that became the thing that mattered most.
That became his anchor, his North Star. Suddenly, it wasn't about whether Clerks was a hit. It just solidified his resolve.
What was the resolve then?
Basically. Okay, you're going to get another job, maybe a third. You will pay off this debt. And then, when that's done, you're going to do this one more time before you leave this world.
Just to get that feeling back. Just for that feeling, that sense of purpose he found while making it. That's an incredible commitment, right? Born from just knowing, deep down, this is what you're meant to do.
Even if the first attempt looked like a total failure from the outside, it completely changed why he was doing it.
Wow. So he's got this new resolve, planning his multi-job debt repayment strategy.
Yeah, back to the grind.
And then completely out of the blue, someone suggests, hey, why don't you submit Clerks to Sundance? Almost like an afterthought.
And he actually did after the IFFM disaster.
He did. And here's where the story takes that wild turn. Against all odds, it got accepted.
No way!
Out of like 400 submissions, Clerks was one of just 16 films chosen for Sundance that year.
That's insane. Talk about a reversal of fortune.
Totally unpredictable. A complete seismic shift from his backup plan. It just shows sometimes you can accept failure, but the universe isn't done with you yet.
And Sundance. That's where things took off.
That's where Miramax saw it. They bought it right out of the festival.
Which launched his career.
Instantly. And crucially for him, it meant he could pay off all that credit card debt he'd been stressing over.
Talk about a gamble paying off. That's the kind of story that makes you think maybe those big leaps of faith are worth it sometimes.
It definitely makes you think. And it connects back to how he handled, conventional wisdom, even his parents' concerns.
Right. His parents must have been worried sick, all that debt, quitting film school.
They were. Totally natural reaction. They were asking about the backup plan, expressing, understandable skepticism about making it in film. The odds are tiny.
And he didn't really have a backup plan, did he? Besides working more jobs to pay debt?
Not in the conventional sense. That's the unreasonability.
Right.
But his reasonable part was acknowledging their fears. He knew it was a long shot.
He wasn't naive about the risk?
No. But he still bet on himself anyway because of that internal conviction he'd found. He accepted the gamble's reality, but didn't let it stop him.
That's a fine line to walk.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
And it leads to how he sees himself now, professionally.
How's that?
He jokes his real title isn't just filmmaker, it's professional Kevin Smith.
Huh. What does that mean to him?
It's like he integrated his work in his actual personality. He decided to just become himself for a living professionally.
So moving beyond just the job title to making a career out of being authentically him.
Exactly. It's kind of like he built the career around who he discovered himself to be instead of trying to fit into some pre-made box.
Pretty relevant today, actually.
With personal branding and all that.
Yeah. And he wraps up this whole philosophy with some pretty blunt advice. It comes from a personal place.
What does he say?
He says, I'll be honest with you kids. One day you die screaming like my father did. You might as well go for it. You might as well do the thing that you dream about doing, for heaven's sake.
Wow. Direct and powerful. A real reminder that time is finite.
Cuts right through the excuses, doesn't it?
It really does. And it connects to how he describes his own career, like extended adolescence, living life on his terms, chasing the passion. And look, he's made, 16 movies?
Yeah.
Working on his 17th. That's not just luck. That's sustained effort fueled by that why not me attitude. Living without regret.
It really is. Don't die screaming with regret for the things you didn't try.
That seems to be the core message.
What an incredible story. Kevin Smith's whole journey is just such a powerful case study, isn't it? For self-belief, for resilience.
Definitely. And for being willing to embrace that reasonable unreasonability, turning impossible dreams into something real.
From the quick stop to Sundance and everything after, all starting with, why not me?
And that cognitive reframing moment is key too. Shifting focus from failure to the act of creation itself, finding the purpose in the process.
Absolutely. It wasn't about the immediate win. It was about becoming. So, as we wrap up, maybe something for you listening to think about today. What does your reasonable unreasonability look like?
What's that thing that seems maybe a little irrational, a little scary, but feels deeply purposeful? The thing you've been holding back on.
Maybe it's a creative project. Or a career shift you keep daydreaming about.
Or maybe just having a tough conversation to get your life more aligned with who you really are.
Because maybe the biggest discoveries, the most profound changes happen when we step off that well-worn path.
And dare to ask ourselves, with real conviction,
why not me?